Our selection is Lean on You. Oh, 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 yeah. Let me lean on you. Oh, 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 yeah. Let me lean on you. Oh, yeah. Let me lean on you. You know my
The oracles of the UCI. 1 Peter chapter 4, verses 7 through 11. But the end of all things is at hand. Be you therefore sober, and watch unto prayer. And above all things have fervent love among yourselves, for love shall cover the multitude of sins. Use hospitality one to another without grudging. As every man has received the gift, even so minister the same one to another as good stewards of the manifold grace of Elohim. If any man speak, let him speak as the oracles of Elohim. If any man minister, let him do it as of the ability which Elohim gives, that Elohim in all things may be glorified through Yahshua HaMashiach, to whom be praise and dominion forever and ever. Amen. Ephesians chapter 4, verses 29 through chapter 5 and verse 4. Let no corrupt communication proceed out of your mouth, but that which is good to the use of edifying, that it may minister grace unto the hearers. And grieve not the Holy Spirit of Elohim, whereby you are sealed until the day of redemption. Let all bitterness and wrath and anger and clamor and evil speaking be put away from you with all malice. And be you kind one to another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, even as Elohim for Yahshua's sake has forgiven you. Be you therefore followers of Elohim, as their children, and walk in love, as the Mashiach also have loved us, and has given himself for us an offering and sacrifice to Elohim for a sweet-smelling savor. But fornication and all uncleanness or covetousness, let it not be once named among you as becomes saints. Neither filthiness, nor foolish talking, nor jesting, which are not convenient, but rather giving of thanks. Ecclesiastes chapter 5, verses 1 and 2. Keep your foot when you go to the house of Elohim, and be more ready to hear than to give the sacrifice of fools, for they consider not that they do evil. Be not rash with your mouth, and let not your heart be hasty to utter anything before Elohim. For Elohim is in heaven, and you up on earth, therefore let your words be few. Exodus chapter 23, verses 20 and 21. Behold, I send an angel before you to keep you in the way, and to bring you into the place which I have prepared. Beware of him, and obey his voice. Provoke him not, for he will not pardon your transgressions, for my name is in him. Revelations chapter 3, verses 20 through 22. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If any man hear my voice and open the door, I will come into him and will sup with him, and he with me. To him that overcomes will I grant to sit with me in my throne, even as I have also overcame and am sat down with my Father in his throne. He that has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says unto the churches.
All right, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Which is peace on Yahweh's holy Sabbath day. Welcome to another holy convocation that Yahweh has enjoined unto us here in Stone Mountain, Georgia. The title of today's sermon is Establishing Authority. When we get down to it, there was a lot of people talking, a lot of things being said, but what we have to do is to pay attention to what authority those words are being spoken by. Romans 9 and verse 4 says, who are Israelites, to whom pertains the adoption and the glory and the covenants and the giving of the law and the service of and the promises, whose are the fathers, of whom as concerning the flesh the Mashiach came, who is over all, Elohim blessed forever. Amen. This gives the children of Israel the authority when we talk about dealing with the things concerning this word. But does that mean every Israelite is somebody who is to be listened to? This is something that we have to consider. When we go back into the book and examine the situation of the disobedient prophet, you had a prophet that was given instructions by Yahweh. Another prophet came and told him something other than what Yahweh told him. He says, I'm a prophet too. So he then listened to the other prophet, right? Did against what Yahweh told him to do. And in turn, Yahweh slayed the one who was deceived, not the deceiver. He was given instructions. He did not obey the instructions that was given unto him, but he wanted to listen to another prophet. So what happens is a lot of times we will listen to somebody else's title or position and automatically accept whatever proceeds out of their mouth. And we can clearly go and pinpoint a place where this was done. It is written, and Yahweh dealt with the one who allowed himself to be deceived. And that is a very, very critical point there, where Yahweh deals with the one who allowed himself to be deceived. Because there's a point where we might be deceived by something, and then there's a situation where we allowed ourselves to be deceived because of something else we either wanted or paid more attention to. Because after Yahweh has given us some form of understanding, he then holds us accountable for that understanding. So then the question becomes, after you are a prophet, how were you deceived? Even if it was by another prophet. How is it were you deceived? How is it we can allow anybody to talk and we're thrown off? How is that possible? There's one thing when we begin this walk. It's something altogether different after we've been walking for a while. How are we still being deceived by the same things that deceived us day one? That is a problem. Let's begin today's sermon in Matthew chapter 17. Matthew chapter 17, and we're going to read verses 1 through 21. And if you have not received the trivia questions for today's sermon, send an email to theuci.org@gmail.com. That is if you have not received the trivia questions. Check your email first. Go ahead.
And after 6 days, Yahshua takes Cephas, Jacob, and Johanan his brother, and bringeth them up into an high mountain apart, and was transfigured before them. And his face did shine as the sun, and his raiment was white as the light.
Right. The same thing that happened with Moshe after spending time with Yahweh, his face did shine. So you have some of the same things. When Yahweh gets ready to show you some authority, he's also doing some of the same things so that you say, you know what, I recognize, his face shine. Wait a minute. We read this. I've been reading this over and over as a child. Remember, every 7 years they got together, they went over the law. So even as a child, they have heard about how Moshe's face did shine. Go ahead.
And behold, there appeared unto them Moshe and Elias talking with him. Then answered Cephas and said unto Yahshua, Adonai, it is good for us to be here. If you will, let us make here 3 tabernacles, one for you, one for Moshe, and one for Elias.
Now, obviously, Yahweh has done great things through Moshe, and Elijah was absolutely loved by Yahweh as well. But what Yahweh then does, you see that there are levels to things. Just because Yahweh allowed somebody to do something or chose them for one job does not mean they're chosen for every job. Go ahead.
While he yet spake, behold, a bright cloud overshadowed them, and behold, a voice out of the cloud, which said, This is my beloved Son, in whom I'm well pleased. Hear you him.
Right, and this wasn't no, that pleasing R&B voice, okay? This was some scary stuff here. And he's making his point as to how the order goes. Did I do something great for Moshe? Yes. Did Elijah do something great? Yes. But who are you supposed to be listening to? How the order goes. And if you even listen to Moshe, you then understood that he was already talking about Yahshua. Go ahead.
And when the disciples heard it, they fell on their face and were sore afraid.
Mm-hmm.
And Yahshua came and touched them and said, Arise and be not afraid. And when they had lifted up their eyes, they saw no man, save Yahshua only, And as they came down from the mountain, Yahshua charged them, saying, Tell the vision to no man until the Son of Man be risen again from the dead.
Right. There's certain things about Yahshua's power and authority that he really didn't want everybody to know. See, this is how you judge the hearts of men. There's certain things he said, no, keep that to yourself. See, other people will go out and tell everything so that they can establish their authority. Yahshua was, no. Because I want to see who real and who not. And Yahweh does the same thing. He doesn't show all his power at the same time. See, sometimes people will walk up on somebody because you know, they look skinny and dorky. You don't know that's an MMA fighter. But you running off at the mouth because you think your power better than his. And you don't know until his foot meets your ear that it was probably a bad idea to do so. Now you know, but it's too late. One side of your head is swollen now. But now you recognize his power. So next time you meet him, you're going to have to make a decision. Had you known that power up front, you might have dealt with that situation differently. Go ahead.
Matthew chapter 17 and verse 10. And his disciples asked him, saying, Why then say the scribes that Elias must first come? Yahshua answered and said unto them, Elias truly shall first come and restore all things. But I say unto you that Elias is come already, and they knew him not, but have done unto him whatsoever they listed. Likewise shall also the Son of Man suffer of them. Then the disciples understood that he spake unto them of Johannan the Baptist.
Right. So then Johannan the Baptist came in the spirit of Elijah to do this particular job. So then you understand why they even made the statement, let us make 3 tabernacles here, one for you, one for Moshe, and one for Elijah. The problem in doing so is that would have made Moshe and Elijah on the same level as Yahshua. Can't happen. See, there's certain things that are highly disrespectful and we don't even know it. They weren't trying to be disrespectful. But Yahweh got in that business right away. He didn't even give Yahshua a time to answer. And you'll find that Yahweh do that from time to time. Sometimes you be in the midst of praying something, and when he want to deal with something, he'll answer for you and get through praying. Now, ain't nobody going to come talk to you. What's going to happen is you're going to be in the middle of your prayer, and all of a sudden, go out of your prayer and start daydreaming, and it's going to be the exact thing that you're supposed to do. He stopped you from praying and answered the question before you even finished the prayer. Go ahead.
Verse 14. And when they were come to the multitude, there came to him a certain man, kneeling down to him, and saying, Adonai, have mercy on my son, for he is a lunatic, and sore vexed. For oftentimes he falls into the fire, and often into the water. And I brought him to your disciples, and they could not cure him.
Levels. What did they have all of this power and all of these things? Yes, they had some power, not that level. So we have to be careful when we assign authority and give levels to people that they have not earned. Go ahead.
Then Yahshua answered and said, O faithful and perverse generation, how long shall I be with you? How long shall I suffer you? Bring him hither to me. And Yahshua rebuked the devil, and he departed out of him.
Right. Yahshua has authority. When he tells the devils to leave, there's no conversation. Have you ever seen or read about any conversation? The only conversation was, where you want us to go? And now demon told Yahshua, well, we don't think we ought to leave here. We was here first. Not one time. When he said leave, they was like, what time? They out. They know his authority. Even when the adversary, the devil, decides he's going to try and tempt Yahshua, you notice he was pretty particular on how he did it. He was trying to convince him to do some things. That way he can go to Yahweh and say, I didn't throw him off no building. He jumped himself. Go ahead.
And Yahshua rebuked the devil, and he departed out of him. And the child was cured from that very hour. Then came the disciples to Yahshua apart and said, Why could not we cast him out? And Yahshua said unto them, Because of your unbelief. For verily I say unto you, if you have faith as a grain of mustard seed, you shall say unto this mountain, Remove hence to yonder place, and it shall remove, and nothing shall be impossible unto you.
Right. But, go ahead.
Howbeit, this kind goes not out but by prayer and fasting.
In other words, you wasn't going to succeed in this one anyway. This kind come out by prayer and fasting only. Still rebuked them though. Because he's teaching them. They have to be prepared to be without him. So he don't have time to keep holding their hand and teaching them every little thing. He ain't got time to teach them their ABCs. Look, there's some things that I'm saying to you that you're not going to get until I'm not around. Listen to me now, believe me later on. But see, this is what causes a problem to us when we try to grab hold of everything. There's some things that you ain't even supposed to understand until you need it. Let's go to 2 Kings chapter 2. I'll be reading something, sometimes sitting around doing absolutely nothing. And a thought come to my head and something my elder said 10 years ago, I just understood. And I might look a little cuckoo because I might just start laughing. You're like, how you just laughing? Ain't nobody talking to you. I just thought about something somebody said to me 10 years ago. You thought about it today? Something that was said 10 years ago? That's how that works. Yahweh give you the stuff when it is necessary for you to have it as it pertains to the growth of his kingdom. Not for you. 2 Kings chapter 2, and let's read verses 5 through 14.
And the sons of the prophets that were at Jericho came to Elisha, and said unto him, Know you that Yahweh will take away your master from your head today? And he answered, Yeah, I know it. Hold you your peace. And Elias said unto him, Tarry, I pray you, here, for Yahweh had sent me to Jordan. And he said, As Yahweh lives, and as my soul liveth, I will not leave you. And they two went on. And 50 men of the sons of the prophets went and stood to view afar off. And they too stood by Jordan.
And 50 men of the sons of the prophets went and stood to view afar off. So Yahweh has basically then announced to all of these people, how everybody know Elijah about to be called to heaven. See, Yahweh finna do something miraculous and he ain't keep it to himself. So they asking him, hey man, do you know that your master about to leave? Yeah, man, I know. How they know? So now you got 50 just sitting around waiting. I want to see how Yahweh gonna take him. This we want to see. He told them for some reason. Go ahead.
Verse 8, And Eliah took his mantle and wrapped it together, and smote the waters, and they were divided hither and thither, so that two went over on dry ground.
So Moshe ain't the only one that parted the waters. When we get round to dealing with water parting, the only one we want to mention is Moshe. And this mantle, there's a part of garments that the priests wear, certain things that they would wear all the time. You talking about clothing. He takes the piece of clothing off and the water move. Go ahead.
And it came to pass, when they were gone over, that Elias said unto Elisha, Ask what I shall do for you before I be taken away from you. And Elisha said, I pray you, let a double portion of your spirit be upon me.
Now, that's a pretty deep question, because just any portion of his spirit would have been a wonderful thing. Go ahead.
And he said, you have asked a hard thing. Nevertheless, if you see me when I'm taken from you, it shall be so unto you, but if not, it shall not be so. And it came to pass, as they still went on and talked, that, behold, there appeared a chariot of fire and horses of fire, and parted them both asunder. And Elijah went up by a whirlwind into heaven.
Elijah went up into heaven in a whirlwind by a chariot of fire and horses of fire. Now, that's a pretty deep situation. Yet go back to the Mount of Transfiguration, and they said, let us build 3 tabernacles. Did Yahweh give a hoot that chariots of fire came and got him? Yahweh, like, I'm the one that sent the chariots of fire. But he still don't get authority over my son. So this is where we allow one thing to happen and we give perceived authority for another thing. Those two things ain't got nothing to do with each other. Did this happen? Yes. Chariot of fire, absolutely awesome. Will not be over Yeshua though. Go ahead.
And Elisha saw it, and he cried, my father, the chariot of Israel, and the horsemen thereof. And he saw him no more, and he took hold of his own clothes and rent them in 2 pieces. He took up also the mantle of Elijah, and fell from him, and went back and stood by the bank of Jordan.
Now, I want y'all to pay attention. How did he get the mantle of Elijah? Okay? It fell as he was going into heaven.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm going to go back to this same situation here a little later, because there's some things that people need to explain how they got here. We know how that mantle fell on the way he was going to heaven. Uh-huh. Go ahead, brother. Was that the end of that?
And he took the mantle of Elijah that fell from him and smote the waters and said, where is Yahweh Elohim of Elijah? And when he also had smitten the waters, they parted hither and thither, and Elisha went over.
All right, that's as far as I want to go right there. Let's go to Numbers 12. There's a little aspect of this that we need to get in this part of authority as well. Because as it is written, come that time, there should be a lot of false prophets among them. And we are probably in the biggest era of false prophets, because now people ain't even got to go and stand on the corner to be a false prophet. They just need a webcam. And now their false prophecy is all over the world. All they got to do is press the broadcast button. Numbers 12, and let's read verses 1 through 16.
And Miriam and Aaron spake against Moshe because of the Ethiopian woman whom he had married.
Now, she spoke against him. It didn't have anything to do with the actual part of Moshe's work. I need people to understand that. It's not like she came and spoke against the priesthood. She spoke against him in some personal business. I don't like this Ethiopian woman that you have married. And you can understand why she would have an issue. Moshe is telling them that they they have to marry from within their own brethren. They have to do all of these things. And then here he comes and he's got this Ethiopian woman. And then he had the other woman before. Neither one of them was Israelite. But do understand, Moshe also was forced away from his people. So a lot of times we like to compare apples and oranges and say, well, he did this, I ought to be able to do it too. Problem is you ain't been through what he been through. Go ahead.
And they said, Is Yahweh indeed spoken only by Moshe?
Now we got some problems. See, what happened was the personal issue has now gone into an issue of questioning his authority. Because I don't like this personal thing, I now question his authority to lead. Now we all ought to be leaders. We all ought to be on the same level because I question this thing here. Go ahead.
Has he not spoken also by us? And Yahweh heard it.
He said, well, wait a minute now. See, sometimes your mouth speak your own judgment. Has he not also spoken by us? And here come Yahweh start talking. You got to be careful what you ask for. And he spoke by us? No. I ain't going to speak by you. I'm going to speak to you. Go ahead.
Now the man Moshe was very meek above all the men which were upon the face of the earth. And Yahweh spake suddenly unto Moshe and unto Aaron and unto Miriam. Come out, you three, unto the tabernacle of the congregation. And they three came out. And Yahweh came down in the pillar of the cloud and stood in the door of the tabernacle and called Aaron and Miriam. And they both came forth. And he said, Hear now my words. If there be a prophet among you, I, Yahweh, will make myself known unto him in a vision and will speak unto him in a dream.
So dreams and visions is how prophets get their instructions. This is what makes a prophet a prophet. Go ahead.
My servant Moshe is not so, who is faithful in all mine house.
So Moshe was greater than a prophet. So whatever, once again, you're dealing with levels. There was a level of prophecy. Moshe ain't at that level of a prophet. He's above the level of a prophet. See, we just let anybody who talk. Oh, well, they such and such, so we going to listen to them. Whoa. There's authority and levels. Go ahead.
With him will I speak mouth to mouth, even apparently, and not in dark speeches.
Not in dark. I ain't going to give him, some riddle that he need to figure out. No. Me and him, we going to talk. Go ahead.
And the similitude of Yahweh shall he behold. Wherefore then were you not afraid to speak against my servant Moshe?
Right. And see, because we in this day and age, what we do, we don't speak against somebody like while they looking. Like we go home and then we get on the internet and then we say something then. Like Yahweh can't hear over the internet. Go ahead.
And the anger of Yahweh was kindled against them, and he departed. And the cloud departed from off the tabernacle. And, behold, Miriam became leprous, white as snow. And Aaron looked upon Miriam, and behold, she was leprous. And Aaron said unto Moshe, Alas, my master, I beseech you, lay not the sin upon us, wherein we have done foolishly, and wherein we have sinned. Let her not be as one dead, of whom the flesh is half consumed when he comes out of his mother's womb. And Moshe cried unto Yahweh, saying, Heal her now, O Elohim, I beseech you. And Yahweh said unto Moshe, If her father had but spit in her face, should she not be ashamed 7 days? Let her be shut out from the camp 7 days, and after that let her be received in again. And Miriam was shut out from the camp 7 days, and the people journeyed not till Miriam was brought in again. And afterward the people removed from Hazeroth and pitched in the wilderness of Paran.
Now, Yahweh was not trying to hurt her, but he wanted to make a point. Moshe could come and pray all he want. Yahweh was establishing his authority. And to make sure he was going to establish his authority, your sister got to be dealt with. I don't care how close she is to you. I don't care what that is. She done ran off at the mouth. If I don't deal with this, there's going to be some other issues that's coming right behind it, which there was issues behind it anyway. So no, I'm going to deal with this. I'm not going to let your prayer stop me from making an example out of her. She ain't going to die. But I tell you what, we don't read her speaking about Moshe no more. There's certain things after it happened to you. You said, look here, I might do something stupid. But it won't be that. It won't be that right there. Go ahead.
Even when you look at verse 11, Aaron also learned something as well. Because you see who he went to. He didn't go straight to Yahweh in prayer. He went to Moshe.
He knew where he messed up at. because it said they. Now, Miriam must have led this charge because she said, look, I'm the oldest here. So she was able to convince Aaron as well. But Yahweh got the one. He got Miriam. He could have got Aaron too. Let's go to Exodus chapter 34. See, Yahweh know who plays the major role in things. Exodus 34, and let's start that at verse 1.
And Yahweh said unto Moshe, Hew you 2 tables of stone like unto the first, and I'll write upon these tables the words that were in the first tables, which you breaketh. And be ready in the morning, and come up in the morning onto Mount Sinai, and present yourself there to me in the top of the mount.
You have to consider just how much authority himself that Moshe knew he had for him to break something that he just got from Yahweh. And he didn't just break, he didn't accidentally break it. He knew he was going to break it. He purposely broke something that he got from Yahweh. Go ahead.
And no man shall come up with you, neither let any man be seen throughout all the mount, neither let the flocks nor herds feed before that mount. And he hewed 2 tables of stone like unto the first. And Moshe rose up early in the morning, and went up onto Mount Sinai, as Yahweh had commanded him, and took in his hand the 2 tables of stone. And Yahweh descended in the cloud, and stood with him there, and proclaimed the name of Yahweh.
Do understand that every time Yahweh brings this cloud and fire in the presence of Moshe, he is establishing his authority. He is establishing that Moshe is somebody that you should probably listen to. And he's doing it over and over again. So when we let some Johnny come lately just come and start talking, and all of a sudden one of them start talking and they following them, Yahweh like, oh, I'm finna kill all them. I'm killing every last one of them. What? I've constantly showed you who you're supposed to be listening to. What is the question? Go ahead.
And Yahweh passed by before him, and proclaimed, Yahweh, Yahweh Elohim, merciful and gracious, long-suffering and abundant in goodness and truth, keeping mercy for 1,000, forgiving lawlessness and transgression and sin, and that will by no means clear the guilty, visiting the lawlessness of the fathers upon the children, upon the children's children, unto the 3rd and to the 4th generation. And Moshe made haste and bowed his head toward the earth, and worshipped. And he said, If now I have found grace in your sight, O Adonai, let my Adonai, I pray you, go among us, for it is a stiff-necked people, and pardon our lawlessness and our sin, and take us for your inheritance. And he said, Behold, I make a covenant. Before all your people I will do marvels, such as have not been done in all the earth, nor in any nation. And all the people among which you are shall see the work of Yahweh. For it is a terrible thing that I will do with you.
It is a terrible thing that I will do with you, and all the people shall see it. I am going to establish your authority. And he does it over and over again. But what do the children of Israel do? Still question him every time something happens. You have killed the children of Israel. Yahweh killed them because y'all was doing something stupid. I told y'all not to do it. But ain't that Jake? I ain't gonna listen to you, but I'm still gonna blame you when something stupid happened to me for not listening to you. Now that's deep right there. Now that's deep. Go ahead.
Exodus chapter 34 and verse 11. Observe that which I command you this day. Behold, I drive out before you the Amorite, and the Canaanite, and the Hittite, and the Perizzite, and the Hivite, and the Jebusite.
Right. And when you read, when we were going through all of the things concerning Judah and Tamar, you have to go and find out who he had those kids by. One kid died, then the next kid died, and then he wanted to not deal with Tamar in a righteous manner because he is almost basically blaming her for the death of the children. You have to go back and see who the mama of those children was and what Yahweh said about us dealing with those people. See, we're not going to look at our part of a situation. It had to be that woman's fault that these kids keep dying. It's got to be her. Can't be no evil that I've done myself, because I mean, I'm Judah. Right. That same thing we say today. I'm Judah. Right. Go ahead, brother.
Take heed to yourself, lest you make a covenant with the inhabitants of the land whither you goeth, lest it be for a snare in the midst of you. But you shall destroy their altars, break their images, and cut down their groves. For you shall worship no other Elohim, for Yahweh, whose name is jealous, is a jealous Elohim. Lest you make a covenant with the inhabitants of the land, and they go a-whoring after their gods, and do sacrifice unto their gods, and one call you, and you eat of his sacrifice. And you take of their daughters unto your sons, and their daughters go a-whoring after their gods, and make your sons go a-whoring after their gods. You shall make you no molten gods. The feast of unleavened bread shall you keep. 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread, as I commanded you in the time of the month, Abib. For in the month Abib you came out from Egypt. All that opens the matrix is mine, and every firstling among your cattle, whether ox or sheep, that is male. But the firstling of an ass you shall redeem with a lamb, and if you redeem him not, then you shall break his neck. All the firstborn of your sons you shall redeem, and none shall appear before me empty. 6 days you shall work, but on the 7th day you shall rest. In airing time and in harvest you shall rest. And you shall observe the feast of weeks, of the first fruits of wheat harvest, and the feast of ingathering at the year's end.
Right. The feast of ingathering is at the end of our agricultural year. They are dealing with all of the things about their growing and planting, because Yahweh is the provider of the sustenance for the children of Israel. So these are the things that they are feeding and taking care of themselves with. In verse 21, it says, 6 days shall you work, but on the 7th day you shall rest. In earing and in harvest time you shall rest. Now, why he had to say that? Because you know we're going to make an excuse. You see all these crops we got to get, Yahweh? Look at all this stuff. We got to pick all this stuff. Surely we can't rest on this Sabbath. Surely. We done already made an excuse. We done already put that back. Look at all this crop we got. Surely he won't mind this Sabbath and maybe the next. Right. Go ahead.
Verse 23. 3 times in the year shall all your men children appear before the Adonai Yah, the Elohim of Israel. For I will cast out the nations before you and enlarge your borders. Neither shall any man desire your land, when you shall go up to appear before Yahweh your Elohim 3 times in the year.
And that is an awesome blessing of Yahweh, that you would leave your land empty, and Yahweh is going to make it to where people won't even want to go in it while you're gone. Go ahead.
You shall not offer the blood of my sacrifice with leaven, neither shall the sacrifice of the feast of Passover be left unto the morning. The first of the firstfruits of your land you shall bring unto the house of Yahweh your Elohim. You shall not seethe a kid in his mother's milk. And Yahweh said unto Moshe, Write you these words, for after the tenor of these words I have made a covenant with you and with Israel.
So you have to pay attention there. He says, I'll write you these words, for after the tenor of these words have I made a covenant with you and with Israel. Go ahead.
And he was there with Yahweh 40 days and 40 nights. He did neither eat bread nor drink water. And he wrote upon the tables the words of the covenant, the 10 commandments. And it came to pass, when Moshe came down from Mount Sinai with the 2 tables of testimony in Moshe's hand, when he came down from the mount, that Moshe knew not that the skin of his face shone while he talked with him.
Right. Moshe has spent so much time with Yahweh, the Spirit is altering him. He is almost turning into a god, spending this time with Yahweh. It is changing things about him. That's what happens when we spend time with the Spirit. It is supposed to alter us in some fashion. Verse 28, and he was there with Yahweh 40 days and 40 nights. He did neither eat bread nor drink water. Man, you got to have the Spirit to be able to do that right there. He's in the presence of the Spirit. Let me tell you something. Not drinking water for that long is enough to make you pass out. Your body is mostly water. That ain't normal right there. That ain't normal at all. Go ahead, bro.
I see people take this and turn it into a diet or fashion fad type of thing, and they end up hurting their body.
Yeah, it'll be a fad, all right. It might be the last time you do it. Might be the last time you do anything. That's not normal right there, bro. That's not normal stuff. Go ahead.
And when Aaron and all the children of Israel saw Moshe, behold, the skin of his face shone, and they were afraid to come near him.
Mm-hmm.
And Moshe called unto them.
Another symbol of his authority. Like how many glowing dudes you done seen? I ain't talking about dude put on some Vaseline on his face and he shine, okay? I'm talking about a real glow, brother. Like, why is it any question that that's the dude we supposed to be listening to? Like a dude come to me and his face look like a light bright. It ain't no question. All right. So where we going? With him. With Mr. Light Bright. We going with Light Bright. Right there. That one right there. The one whose face glows. We going that way. Go ahead.
And Moshe called unto them, and Aaron and all the rulers of the congregation returned unto him. And Moshe talked with them. And afterward all the children of Israel came there, and he gave them in commandment all that Yahweh had spoken with him in Mount Sinai. Until Moshe had done speaking with them, he put a veil on his face. But when Moshe went in before Yahweh to speak with him, he took the veil off until he came out.
Mm-hmm.
And he came out and spake unto the children of Israel that which he was commanded. And the children of Israel saw the face of Moshe, that the skin of Moshe's face shone. And Moshe put the veil upon his face again until he went in to speak with him.
Right. You have this veil then that is separating them from the power of Yahweh. It was the power of Yahweh that caused Moshe's face to shine. In the tabernacle, there is a veil that separates between the holy and the most holy. That's why this stuff is behind me. This is not because we thought this was from pretty colors and we thought it would be a nice decoration, to look at by the webcam. It actually means something. Go ahead, brother. You finished that?
Yep, that was it.
All right, let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 18. So we got Moshe's face did shine. You have, when this thing was shown in the Mount of Transfiguration, you didn't have Yahshua's face shining. But yet, you got some people that'll tell you, especially some of those old covenant Hebrews, they'll tell you that, Yahshua was one of the prophets. Deuteronomy chapter 18. And let's start with verses 1 through 8.
The priests, the Levites, and all the tribe of Levi shall have no part nor inheritance with Israel. They shall eat the offerings of Yahweh made by fire and his inheritance.
Right. Now you have to understand that the how much work Moshe made for himself. The first set of tables was written with the finger of Elohim. We can find that in Exodus 31. Then he gets upset and break them. Guess who got to write the second one? He had to write them himself. Go ahead.
Therefore shall they have no inheritance among their brethren. Yahweh is their inheritance, as he has said unto them. And this shall be the priest's due from the people, from them that offer a sacrifice, whether it be ox or sheep. And they shall give unto the priest the shoulder, and the 2 cheeks, and the maw.
Right. You have these things that are due unto the priest, because the priests don't have that inheritance. They end up having to go where the children of Israel are. So you might find priests all over the land of Israel. Go ahead.
The first fruits also of your corn, of your wine, and of your oil, and the first of the fleece of your sheep shall you give him. For Yahweh Elohim hath chosen him out of all your tribes to stand to minister in the name of Yahweh, him and his sons forever. And if a Levite come from any of your gates out of all Israel,
any of the gates out of all of Israel, see, they everywhere. Go ahead.
Where he sojourned, and come with all the desire of his mind unto the place which Yah shall choose, then he shall minister in the name of Yahweh his Elohim, as all his brethren the Levites do, which stand there before Yah. They shall have like portions to eat, beside that which comes of the sale of his patrimony.
Jump to verse 15.
Yahweh your Elohim will raise up unto you a prophet from the midst of you, of your brethren, like unto me. Unto him shall you hearken.
Right. I don't know if you guys seen there's a video where the guy is talking from that's supposed to be in charge of the Black Lives Matter, and he's having a conversation with this lady on Fox News. I'm sure they called her in the back after that conversation because she did not do well. But he went into, of course, they were saying Jesus. He didn't know no better, but he started going into that Jesus was not black. He was not white. She didn't know how to answer the question. She started some. He's from the Middle East. Well, we all know that. You know, I mean, he was tearing her up in this thing. I'll try and send out the video, but I'm sure they call her to the back and tell her what happened. He just tore you a new one. I mean, he told her she wasn't ready. You know, brother had on a baseball cap, so I think she thought, you know, he wasn't equipped like that mentally. Oh man, boy, he caught her slipping. It was not pretty. But this says here, a prophet from the midst of your brethren. So Moshe was Hebrew. So what was Yahshua prophesied to be? Hebrew. But what they show us is the dude who looked like Joel Osteen. Oh, the dude started going into woolly hair and dog skin. Oh, she was ready to go to commercial. You know, she was ready to get out. Commercial. Yeah. Go ahead, bro.
According to all that you desires of Yahweh your Elohim in Horeb in the day of the assembly, saying, let me not hear again the voice of Yahweh my Elohim, neither let me see this great fire anymore, that I die not. And Yahweh said unto me, they have well spoken that which they have spoken.
Right, they have well spoken that, because they ain't going to see it no more. The next time the children of Israel see that kind of power, it's going to be with the prophet that I bring like unto you. So they're not going to be able to hear my voice or see me like this. Go ahead.
I will raise them up a prophet from among their brethren, like unto you, and I will put my words in his mouth, and he shall speak unto them all that I shall command him.
Right. So now if you're dealing with authority, the authority for Yahshua has begun, and Yahshua's nowhere in the picture yet. But the authority for him has already been laid. The groundwork for his authority has already been laid. So when people start, go in this book and they just grab somebody out the book, I found this in the Bible, man, and we ought to do it. Why we ought to do that? Because I had synced it. Okay, well, where's the authority for that individual to do that? Well, I've seen his name in the Bible, so we just need to do it. That makes absolutely no sense at all. Go ahead.
Verse 19, and it shall come to pass that whosoever will not hearken unto my words, which he shall speak in my name, I will require it of him.
It will be required of him. It shall come to pass that whosoever shall not hearken unto my words, which he shall speak in my name. Go ahead.
But the prophet, which shall presume to speak a word in my name, which I have not commanded him to speak, or that shall speak in the name of other gods, even that prophet shall die. And if you say in your heart, how shall we know the word which Yahweh has not spoken?
How shall we know? Go ahead.
When a prophet speaks in the name of Yah, if the thing follow not, nor come to pass, that is the thing which Yahweh has not spoken. But the prophet has spoken it presumptuously, you shall not be afraid of him.
Right. So then there's certain times that we need to sit down and watch and see how the Spirit deals with the situation before we go helter-skelter trying to follow everything that we hear. Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 34.
Verse 1. And Moshe went up from the plains of Moab onto the mountain of Nebo, to the top of Pisgah, that is over against Jericho. And Yahweh showed him all the land of Gilead unto Dan, and all Naphtali, and the land of Ephraim and Manasseh, and all the land of Yehudah unto the utmost sea, and the south, and the plain of the valley of Jericho, the city of palm trees, unto Zoar. And Yahweh said unto him, this is the land which I swear unto Abraham, unto Esaac, unto Jacob.
Now, this is the land that I swear long time ago. All right. They ain't had no ability to get any of this land while they were living. But I already promised this. Okay? Go ahead.
Saying, I will give it unto your seed. I have caused you to see it with your eyes, but you shall not go over thither. So Moshe, the servant of Yahweh, died there in the land of Moab, according to the word of Yah.
He died in the land of Moab according to the word of Yahweh. Go ahead.
And he buried him in a valley in the land of Moab, over against Beth Peor. But no man knows of his sepulture unto this day. And Moshe was 120 years old when he died.
Now, they seen Moshe on the Mount of Transfiguration. They seen him with Elijah. Now, we already read what happened to Elijah. Elijah went to heaven on chariots of fire and horses of fire. Now, Moshe's death, Yahweh told him to go up in the mountain. This is you'll never see another burial like this ever. Because this burial ain't nobody here but him and Yahweh. Go ahead.
His eye was not dim, nor his natural force abated.
How old was he?
120.
120 years old, and ain't nothing wrong with his strength or his eyes. That's already a strange situation right there. And then he said, it is time for you to die. Well, I don't feel deathly, Yahweh. I actually wanted to see if you want to play basketball with me or something. You know what I'm saying? It's hard to do it with this skirt on because I'm trying to dribble between my legs and the ball keep getting caught. He still got his regular strength. You know how hard that is to imagine going to a brother in his strength, 25 years old, tell him, all right, it's time for you to die. What? Who? Who talking? You talking to me? I don't feel that. I don't feel that. It's hard to tell somebody in all their strength. When you're young and you listen to them old people talk, you know, old people like to compare like what's wrong with them. I sit down and listen to my grandmama, and one of them say, "Oh, my leg hurt," and then they start like it was like they were playing, you know, who had the most ailments, you know. Cause one of them be like, my leg hurt, that ain't nothing, girl. My whole backside hurt right here. I can't even feel whole left side. And they just going, I'm just sitting there looking like, this is what happens when you get kicked out of school. You just got to sit here and listen to them talk about what's wrong with them. It didn't make no sense because I was young in my youth. Nothing had happened to me. The conversation didn't make no sense. Then I started getting old and was like, oh my goodness, my back. I feel funny in places. All of a sudden I started thinking about when I had to listen to them old ladies talk. It didn't make no sense to me because I I had never felt anything like that. Start making sense a little later on. Go ahead.
Deuteronomy chapter 34 and verse 8. And the children of Israel wept for Moshe in the plains of Moab 30 days. So the days of weeping and mourning for Moshe were ended.
Right. Yahweh gives you a certain amount of time. See, this is what we need to pay attention to. He gives you a certain amount of time to mourn. So you need to either turn up your mourning. Go ahead and turn up. All right? Turn up. You're going to go, Go ahead. Let's go ahead and get it out. Because you got a certain number of days. So we can go and get this passed. Because, see, we want to mourn, 4 years later, we just still mourning. Hey, man. Hey. No. We're not mourning 4 years. Yeah, them women that'll tell their kids, you the one that caused these stretch marks on my body. The kid be like 16. Hey, that's a teenager now. Go ahead, bro.
And Yahshua the son of Nun was full of the spirit of wisdom, for Moshe had laid his hands upon him.
Moshe had laid his hands on Yahshua, setting forth the authority. Go ahead.
And the children of Israel hearkened unto him, and did as Yahweh commanded Moshe. And there arose not a prophet since in Israel like unto Moshe, whom Yahweh knew face to face.
There arose not a prophet since in Israel like unto Moshe, whom Yahweh knew face to face. He was better and greater than a prophet, so there wasn't going to be anything anywhere like it until Yahshua came upon the scene. Go ahead.
And all the signs and the wonders which Yahweh sent him to do in the land of Egypt to Pharaoh, and to all his servants, and to all his land, and in all that mighty hand, and in all the great terror which Moshe showed in the sight of all Israel.
Right. So then all of these things were done, even the judgment unto Pharaoh. All of these miracles were done by the hand of Moshe. So when it comes down to us receiving instruction on what it is we're supposed to be doing, we understand the order. We know that Yahshua reigns supreme, but it came through Moshe, the whole foundation. So when we have any question concerning our foundation, everything got to be based on what we can find in the books of Moshe. Anybody come with anything, we got to go look at the books of Moshe, then we look at the writings of Yahshua, and we're going to balance those out and see what we come up with. We're not just going to, just open the Bible up and find somebody's name, and you see what they did here? Look at that, man. They put 4 monkeys on a stick. We ought to get us some stick monkeys and march around the sanctuary. Hey, bro, don't come up in there with that. Don't come up in there with that. That ain't going to work. So, instead of getting all emotional about it, we're going to get right here in the book, and we're going to see if when we get off in the Torah, if we can find some stick monkeys. If we can't find no stick monkeys, we're going to clearly tell them to get the hell out of here. Simple as that. There ain't got to be no emotion. It's going to be real simple. Let's see if we can find that come out of your mouth. Let's see if we can find it in this book. Well, I got another book. Now we got some problems. Well, I can find it in this book. Our instructions, the level of the authority that we are given starts with Moshe. That's where we're going to start. Because if you jump to Yahshua, there's some things about what Yahshua is doing that you don't even understand if you don't understand the basis that came from Moshe. So that's where we're going to start at. So if we can't find that what you're speaking of in Moshe, we're going to have to X this. Go ahead.
That was it.
Did you finish that?
Yeah.
Let's go to Luke chapter 16. Luke chapter 16, and let's start that at verse 18.
Verse 18. Whosoever puts away his wife and marries another commits adultery, and whosoever marries her that is put away from her husband commits adultery.
Now, you know, every time we read that, I get all kind of problems from them 7-day people, them first day people who think they keeping the Sabbath. And they come at me like I'm the one that's saying this. Sending all these messages, catching the Holy Ghost all over my email. My Gmail ain't ready for all that. Don't send all of that mess to my email like I'm the one that's saying this. Your problem is with Yahshua. Your problem ain't with me. This is in red. Yahshua was the one that said this. So you got a problem, build you a pulpit of wood and stand on it and tell Yahshua how you feel. And I'm sure he'll answer you in due time. Go ahead, bro.
Verse 19, there was a certain rich man which was clothed in purple and fine linen, and fared sumptuously every day. And there was a certain beggar named Lazarus, which was laid at his gate full of sores, and desiring to be fed with the crumbs which fell from the rich man's table. Moreover, the dogs came and licked his sores.
Right, but when we got it going on, we not trying to be inconvenienced by no poor beggar. And then he don't look too good. He got sores on him. Go ahead.
And it came to pass that the beggar died, and was carried by the angels into Abraham's bosom.
Now, this is a parable. Other people will tell you that this is, especially the people who want to believe in heaven, they really want to deal with this. But we understand that all of this happens even as far as judgment. All of those things happen at the same time. So where they're ready to deal with these all in one instance, when we get in this book, it says that when he's bringing them up for that first resurrection, they coming out of everywhere to deal with these things. Go ahead.
The rich man also died and was buried. And in hell he lift up his eyes, being in torments, and sees Abraham afar off, and Lazarus in his bosom. And he cried and said, Father Abraham, have mercy on me, and send Lazarus, that he may dip the tip of his finger in water, and cool my tongue, for I am tormented in this flame.
Right. He wants relief from the very people that he ignored. Go ahead.
But Abraham said, Son, remember that you in your lifetime receive your good things, and likewise Lazarus evil things. But now is he comforted, and you are tormented.
Right. These are things that a lot of Americans need to consider, as they have fared very well with all of the things that have been done. Sooner or later, that judgment has to come. Like if you was one of those articles said Lords of London came out apologizing for slavery. What? Open your checkbook. Don't apologize. That's what you giving me, an apology? You have made billions of dollars off of that free labor. But what you offer is an apology? Yahweh will not be mocked. Go ahead.
And besides all this, between us and you there is a great gulf fixed, so that they which would pass from hence to you cannot, neither can they pass to us that would come from thence. Then he said, I pray you therefore, Father, that you would send him to my father's house. For I have 5 brethren, that he may testify unto them, lest they also come into this place of torment. Abraham says unto him, They have Moshe and the prophets.
What order?
Moshe and the prophets.
Moshe and the prophets. This is Yahshua speaking. He's giving this analogy. They have Moshe and the prophets. Moshe first, prophets afterwards. When you hear people trying to sell you their newfound religion, they're going to start somewhere in Psalms. Man, the Psalms are songs and poems. Are you trying to get me to change my life after a song? You playing, right? And you need to be looking at them like, are you for real? Moshe, then the prophets. Go ahead.
Let them hear them. And he said, No, Father Abraham, but if one went from them from the dead, they will repent. And he said unto him, If they hear not Moshe and the prophets,
Once again,
neither will they be persuaded, though one rose from the dead.
if they hear not Moshe and the prophets, they ain't going to be concerned with what Yahshua got to say either. Because he the one that rose from the dead. He the one that he is speaking of. So they're not going to hear Moshe. They're not going to hear the prophets. They're not going to hear Yahshua either. Let's go to Exodus chapter 23. Exodus 23. And we're going to read verses 20 through 23.
Behold, I send an angel before you to keep you in the way and to bring you into the place which I have prepared.
So it is the angel's job to lead Moshe and the children of Israel to the place where they're supposed to go. So Moshe is the authority of what they see. The angel is the authority from what Moshe sees. Go ahead.
Beware of him and obey his voice. Provoke him not, for he will not pardon your transgressions, for my name is in him.
The name of Yahweh is in the angel. The angel speaks in the name of Yahweh. So for this very reason, there's a very limited amount of angels who are going to even reveal unto us their name, because they do not want to step on the authority of Yahweh. So the angel is speaking, and it sounds like Yahweh is speaking. He says, my name is in him. Do not provoke him. He has authority. So this is why we don't have all throughout these books a bunch of names of angels, because the angels are speaking in the name of Yahweh. We got 66 books here, and we can name 2 angels. You got about 14 more books in the Apocrypha, and you get 2 more angels. That's 4 angels out of 80 books. Yet somebody tell me that they got a book that ain't got nothing but angels all over it. Names everywhere. But we can't get but 4 out of 80 books? Right. Go ahead.
I'm trying to remember here. It says here Moshe and the prophets, right?
Uh-huh.
I'm trying to remember if I ever heard that Enoch was a prophet.
Brother, I keep asking people, what did Enoch do? But we're going to get there. It's like the people say, the prophet, Muhammad. I said, all right, well, what did he prophesy? Did he say something that happened? I don't know. And I don't study that, so I can't really say. But I ain't heard nothing. And I sure can't figure out any authority as to why we would even be told to listen to Enoch. There's absolutely nothing in this book that I can find as far as giving him any authority. Go ahead.
But if you shall indeed obey his voice and do all that I speak, then I will be an enemy unto your enemies, and an adversary unto your adversaries.
Obey his voice and do that I speak. So I am speaking through him. So there's no reason for you to know his name. What you need to know his name for? I'm talking. Go ahead.
For mine angels shall go before you and bring you in unto the Amorites and the Hittites and the Perizzites and the Canaanites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites, and I will cut them off.
All right. Let's go to Acts chapter 19. Acts chapter 19, and let's read verses 11 through 15. So there's certain things that you need to read back to back so that you can get the picture.
Acts chapter 19 and verse 11. And Elohim wrought special miracles by the hands of Saul, so that from his body were brought onto the sick handkerchiefs or aprons, and the diseases departed from them, and the evil spirits went out of them.
Another situation where he is assigning authority by you seeing the result of things that are done. Go ahead.
Then certain of the vagabond Yehudis, exorcists, took upon them to call over them which had evil spirits the name of the Adonai Yahshua, saying, We adjure you by Yahshua, whom Saul preaches. And there were 7 sons of one Sceva, a Yehudi, and chief of the priests, which did so.
Chief of the priests don't mean nothing, though. All right? So, a chief of the priests, they're sons of priests. Okay, they have supposed authority, right? Keep reading.
And the evil spirit answered and said, Yahshua I know, and Saul I know, but who are you?
So, although they were sons of priests, the demons said, you don't have any authority. Why don't I know you? What 2 things did Yahshua and Saul have in common? They were both baptized. Yahshua, that you have Yohanan's baptism, then the baptism grew from that after Yahshua got his, and then Saul was also baptized in it. So you have people walking around with perceived authority that don't have any. When they asked about receiving the Holy Ghost, receiving the Holy Spirit, first question they asked, they said, have you received the Holy Spirit? They said, we have not even heard of there being a Holy Spirit. First question was, what then were you baptized in? Mm-hmm. They said, Yohanan's baptism. He said, no, it's a better baptism than that. You got to get baptized in Yahshua's name. So when we start talking about these things, the demons didn't recognize them. You don't have any authority. Where's your authority? So the demons have absolutely no reason to respect them, no reason to listen to them. But these 2, they knew. So the demons know which ones to walk around, and they know which ones to just have their way. Go ahead.
That was at verse 15.
All right. Let's go to Judges chapter 13. And let me tell you that there's some that have a desire to get their baptism, and that desire may actually suffice for Yahweh until the time that they are able to actually complete that. Then you have those that have absolutely no desire whatsoever. And there are times that people will just be out talking and teaching, and we listening to what they got to say about this. And before we even get anywhere into listening to them, there's some questions we supposed to be asking. So, hey, how you doing? I saw your page, and there was some real interesting stuff on there. Let me ask you a question. Were you baptized in Yahshua's name? When you hear those crickets come across your email, time to get the hell on. What authority do you have? Have you even made a covenant with Yahweh? Have you made a covenant to do what it is you're doing, or you just do it until, saying you feel like you don't want to do it no more? Because Yahweh don't deal with our covenants. He don't deal with, I teach, till I don't feel teachery, He don't deal with them kind of people. No, he deal with the people that's going to make a covenant. Look here, man, I'm going to do this. Come rain, hail, sleet, snow. If I don't feel good, I'm gonna go in that coffin. My nose running, I'm just going to have a lot of tension. Because this is my covenant. I'm going to do, if I can't walk, somebody going to roll me there. That's how Yahweh deal. So first thing you need to be figuring out, where your covenant at? Did you make a covenant with him to do this? Go ahead, bro.
Judges chapter 13 and verse 6. Or you want to start at 1?
No, start at 6.
Then the woman came and told her husband, saying, a man of Elohim came unto me, and his countenance was like the countenance of an angel of Elohim.
So he ain't look regular. All right? There was nothing regular about this man. Go ahead.
Very terrible. But I asked him not whence he was, neither told he me his name.
All right. First thing, he didn't tell her anything about him. Not like that. Jump to verse 11.
And Manoah arose and went after his wife, and came to the man, and said unto him, are you the man that spake unto the woman? And he said, I am.
I am. Go ahead.
And Manoah said, now let your words come to pass. How shall we order the child, and how shall we do unto him? And the angel of Yahweh said unto Manoah, of all that I said unto the woman, let her beware.
So he gave the woman instructions about the child. Now he giving the husband instructions about the child as well. Go ahead.
She may not eat of anything that comes of the vine, neither let her drink wine or strong drink, nor eat any unclean thing. All that I commanded her, let her observe. And Manoah said unto the angel of Yahweh, I pray you, let us detain you, until we shall have made ready a kid for you.
I'm going to cook something for you. Go ahead.
And the angel of Yahweh said unto Manoah, though you detain me, I will not eat of your bread. And if you will offer a burnt offering, you must offer it unto Yahweh.
You must offer it unto Yahweh. See, an angel that's doing what he's supposed to be doing is not going to take the glory of Yahweh unto himself. He wants that glory to go directly to Yahweh. So when folks name themselves names like Yahweh, I got a real problem. I ain't calling that another man Yahweh. Hey, brother, what's your name? My name Yahweh. No, the hell it ain't. Who gonna call you that? That YBY dude, my elder used to call him Hulon. They ain't calling no another man Yahweh, man. Go ahead.
For Manoah knew not that he was an angel of Yah. And Manoah said unto the angel of Yahweh, what is your name? That when your saying comes to pass, we may do you honor.
We gonna do you honor, man. Tell me your name. Go ahead.
And the angel of Yahweh said unto him, why ask you thus after my name, seeing it is secret?
What you want to know my name for? So, we got 66 books in here. And we can find roughly 2 names. And them names Yahweh wanted us to know. He said, what you want to know my name for? Go ahead.
So Manoah took a kid with a meat offering and offered it up on a rock unto Yahweh. And the angel did wondrously, and Manoah and his wife looked on. For it came to pass, when the flame went up toward heaven from off the altar, that the angel of Yahweh ascended in the flame of the altar. And Manoah and his wife looked on it, and fell on their faces to the ground.
All right. Now let's go to Genesis chapter 32. See, one thing that you look for as well when you're dealing with something, remember how, first of all, we go according to what's written in the Torah. Let there be 2 witnesses. So let's go to chapter 32 in Genesis, and we're going to read verses 22 through 30.
And he rose up that night, and took his 2 wives, and his 2 women servant, and his 11 sons, and passed over the ford Yabok.
Now, we're talking about Yaakov. We're talking about Jacob. All right, go ahead.
And he took them, and sent them over the brook, and went over, and sent over that he had. And Yaakov was left alone, and there wrestled a man with him until the breaking of the day. And when he saw that he had prevailed not against him, he touched the hollow of his thigh, and the hollow of Yaakov's thigh was out of joint, as he wrestled with him. And he said, let me go, for the day breaks. And he said, I will not let you go, except you bless me. And he said unto him, what is your name? And he said, Yaakov.
Now, do you think the angel don't know his name? Or you think this is a rhetorical question? I mean, this angel. And he realized that he's wrestling with a man, somebody that he should be able to defeat very easily. He should just be able to slap Jacob and his face just fly off his body. Go ahead.
And he said, your name shall be called no more Jacob, but Yisrael.
Right. Now he gives him the name of the son of Elohim. He says, ain't nobody supposed to be able to hold me. Go ahead.
For as a prince have you power with Elohim and with men, and have prevailed.
So the man has asked. This angel has asked him his name. This angel has now given him a new name. Now, isn't it customary as you meet somebody and they say, what's your name? My name is Esaac. Okay, isn't it customary for you to then ask them their name?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, read.
And Jacob asked him and said, tell me, I pray you, your name. And he said, wherefore is it that you does ask after my name? And he blessed him there.
Right. So in other words, Yahweh don't give a damn about your customs. Okay? Yeah, it is customary for you to ask, but the angel's response was none of your business. Yeah, man, but I told you my name. I already knew your name before I got here. You shall not know mine. So whenever I hear something that goes outside of all of the things that I'm hearing here, he said they're speaking in the name of Yahweh. And keep in mind now, until Moshe, they don't even know Yahweh's name. He said, I spoke to them in the name of El and El Shaddai, but by my name Yahweh, I was not known among them. They did not know me that way. But all these angels are getting glory before Yahweh even gets the glory. Hello? Let's go to Genesis chapter 5. Genesis chapter 5, and let's read verses 21 through 25.
Verse 21. And Enoch lived 65 years and begot Methuselah.
First of all, you need to understand in this book, especially in the beginnings in Genesis, there are two Enochs. There is one Enoch that is of the seed of Cain. Okay? So whenever somebody approaches you with the book of Enoch, you need to ask them, is that the son of Cain? Because I definitely don't want to read his book. Go ahead.
And Enoch walked with Elohim after he begot Methuselah 300 years. And begot sons and daughters.
Okay, he walked with Elohim. All right, go ahead.
And all the days of Enoch were 365 years. And Enoch walked with Elohim, and he was not, for Elohim took him. And Methuselah lived 187 years and begot Lamech.
Okay, so we have these things. What we have here in verses 21 through 25 is all that Moshe has to say about the righteous Enoch. That's it. You just read all the Old Testament has to say about Enoch. Now, this would have been a perfect time to put in there about that book. If he wrote a book, this is a perfect time to put that in there. But there's absolutely nothing about this book. Back up to Genesis 4 and read verse 17. Because I want you to see where this other one come in.
And Cain knew his wife, and she conceived and bare Enoch. And he built a city and called the name of the city after the name of his son, Enoch.
So we know that there was a city called Enoch. Now, this was also would have been a perfect time to talk about that book. It's been a really good time to talk about that book. Now, let's go to Hebrews 11.
It didn't fall like the mantle.
You know what I'm saying? Now, yeah, we're going to get to that, bro. Because we knew the mantle fell as he was going to heaven. So now, Hebrews 11 And let's read now. So we done read all that the Old Testament had to say about Enoch as far as what was written in the law. Let's read as our people wrote later on. Let's see what's here. Hebrews 11, and let's read verse 5.
By faith Enoch was translated that he should not see death, and was not found, because Elohim had translated him. For before his translation...
Stop. Before his translation. That's before he was called to go to heaven. Read.
He had this testimony, that he pleased Elohim.
Before. That's something you need to pay attention to. Because what everything that we've heard, that he went to heaven and then wrote this book, and then somehow the book came back down. This says that before his translation, he pleased Elohim. See, this is something that we have to consider. So, and anytime you're dealing with one of them Enochians, they're gonna bring to you Jude chapter 1 and verse 14. So let's read that. So we can go ahead and get this out the way. Y'all ain't got to turn to that. It's right here on this graphic here. Go ahead, bro.
And Enoch also, the seventh from Abraham,
from Adam,
pardon me, prophesied of these, saying, Behold, the Adonai comes with 10,000s of his saints.
Now, they say, you see, he talked about the book of Enoch. No, he talked about Enoch. He never said anything about the book. Now, I got to ask you, if it's the seventh from Adam, you do understand there is no nation of Israel. Who the hell did he get a book to? There are no Israelites. The book would have to have been on there with the animals and Noah too. It said Noah took 2 of everything. Did he have 2 books of Enoch so they could multiply? Did he have a girl Enoch book and a boy Enoch book? So he can put them in a stall together and they made little baby Enoch books? Moshe finished his work and was told to go to an undisclosed place for him to die, so Yahweh could bring him unto him. Elijah finished his work and was called to Elohim on a chariot of fire. Yeshua finished his work and ascended to where he was before. But we are told that Enoch was called to Elohim and then finished his work in heaven. This is not backed up by what's in Hebrews, nor does any of this follow the pattern of how Yahweh works. And there is nothing to prove that Yahweh called Enoch for the purpose of writing about what is in heaven. But let us hear the conclusion of this matter. Let's go to Matthew chapter 7. Matthew chapter 7. And we're going to read verses 24 through 29. See, we have yet to even figure out whether or not Enoch was a prophet. We have yet to figure out anything. We don't know how he pleased Elohim. It says he was righteous. It says that Yahweh was pleased. Yahweh took him. He didn't give us any information on how and why. We know how Elijah got there. So the mantle fell down. This is how the next brother had the mantle of Elijah. We have no idea if Yahweh took this brother. They said he was not, for Yahweh took him. We still haven't figured out how the book got here. If he went, I think when people do some things, they don't consider the large amount of time that's in between when Enoch was supposed to be on the earth and the time that the children of Israel are set up as a nation. What language would that even be written in? And who would have to keep carrying that book before we even became a nation of people? And why would Yahweh want to give us in-depth knowledge about heaven And he ain't told you who he is yet. There are too many strikes against certain things. He gonna explain to you heaven, but he ain't told you who the hell you are yet. Like, yeah, this is in heaven. By the way, excuse me, Yahweh, who am I? I don't know why you telling me about heaven. I don't know who the hell I am. He ain't even told them Israel yet. But he done gave him a book about heaven. There's some things that should strike us as quite interesting. When I go through 66 books and I can't pick up but 2 names, there's a problem when you pull out about 10, 12 right off the rip and we just in chapter 4. There's a problem. And I know them Enochians is like, well, you don't mess with him again. You don't know he beat up on our God every time y'all mess with him. Them elder Enochians is mad at them young ones because they come to, running off at the mouth. Go ahead, bro.
No, I just wanted to say, it's written that we were going to be scattered to the 4 corners of the earth.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we know also, too, that the Bible is written in different languages
Mm-hmm.
across the 4 corners of the earth.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this book of Enoch, is this something that is actually written in different languages across the 4 corners of the earth?
What they say is because they found them among the Dead Sea Scrolls. They don't understand the enormous amount of time in between what happened in Genesis and what they found in the Dead Sea Scrolls. Man, we had all kind of sects of our people, different divisions, scribes and Pharisees. Hey, we can go in this book and read that some were questioning Yahshua about resurrection. They didn't believe in resurrection. So you have all kind of different beliefs, even among our people at that time. So we want to think anytime we find a book that this is what all our people believe. No, that's what a few of those people believe. Just because you found the book don't mean nothing. And we have to, man, that book should have been in real bad shape if it was there since Genesis. That book should have been hard to read, bro. That every time they turned the paper, it should have turned to dust. It should have been something, you know how old that would have to be? I mean, extremely old. Matthew chapter 7, and let's start that at verse 24.
Therefore, whosoever hears these sayings of mine and does them, I will liken him unto a wise man which built his house upon a rock.
Right. So this is the sayings of Yahshua. Yahshua has verified Moshe. We have different witnesses, different prophets. You'll find that you'll go in Jeremiah and then you'll go in Isaiah and find the same thing that Jeremiah said. You'll go in one prophet and find the same thing that another prophet has said. What's happening? Yahweh is having 2 or more witnesses say the same thing, so they verify each other. I'm trying to find anything from Genesis to Revelation that say what they say Enoch said. And I can't find anybody except that one verse of Jude. I want to explain to y'all how little Jude is. Jude is a book with 1 chapter, okay? Then the part that speaks about Enoch is 1 sentence. For all practical purposes, Jude is an email, okay? Jude is an email, and not even a whole email. I'm talking about a sentence from an email. And now they have based a whole teaching of 1 line from an email type writing. We're talking about Jude is he's a 1-pager. So when you talk about prophets and you're going to base something off what they said, think about how many books of Moshe we got. Think about how many chapters in Jeremiah and Isaiah. But let me show you what the faithless do. They go and find the smallest book they can find, a 1-pager, get 1 line out of a 1-pager and make an entire doctrine. Now, you know how much stuff they could have done and going into Isaiah or going into Jeremiah, Zechariah. It was all kind of places they could have gone. They go in the shortest one and get 1 sentence. And that is an entire doctrine based off one sentence. Go ahead.
You know what? You read it earlier. It's what Yahshua said. He said, yo, they have Moshe and the prophet.
Mm-hmm.
Let them hear them.
Right.
That summed it up right there.
Apparently not enough for some people, because they believe that this one line gives them, and it's amazing how many of our people are being subdued by going into these things and finding these miraculous writings, and they want to go through all these other books and whatnot. And what it does is we have to remember what the situation with Shlomo. Shlomo was the wisest king that ever lived. What happened with that pushed wisdom? What happened after a while? That wisdom ended up leading him off into something else. Go ahead, brother.
Verse 25, and the rain descended, and the floods came, and the winds blew, and beat upon that house, and it fell not, for it was founded upon a rock. And everyone that hears these sayings of mine, and does them not, shall be likened unto a foolish man, which built his house upon the sand. And the rain descended, and the floods came, and the winds blew, and beat upon that house, and it fell, and great was the fall of it. And it came to pass, when Yahshua had ended these sayings, the people were astonished at his doctrine, for he taught them as one having authority, and not as the scribes.
He taught as one having authority because he does have authority. It was not perceived authority, it was the authority that his father gave him. And if we do the things that we're supposed to do, we shall eventually walk and do work in that same authority under Yahshua. Not at the level that Yahshua has, but we will work under his authority. And that's something that we have to consider. That's all that we're going to do for today. We're also going to do our trivia. We're going to do it at 5:30. I did extend, go ahead and pay for the membership, so we are not limited to 40 minutes. We got cut off last week, so you know how they do you. You know, they let you slide 1 week. Then after that, they ask for that money. So, you know, I had to go ahead and pay that money. So we won't be cut off. So trivia will be at 5:30 Eastern Standard Time. That's all that we're going to do for today. Remember the Sabbath to keep it holy. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.